Hello, this is Mr. Roush again with Module 12.2, Relative Frequency. Our essential question, how can you recognize possible associations and trends between two categories of categorical data? So the first one, we have relative frequencies. The relative frequency of a category is the frequency of the category divided by the total of all the frequencies. So if you look at the first one, the total is 80. So you would say 20 people prefer basketball out of 80, or 32 prefer football out of the 80. So we can use the frequencies to make a relative frequency table that uses decimals. So we're just going to take the top number divided by the bottom number. So basketball is 20 divided by 80 is 0.25. Football is 32 over 80, which is 0.4. Soccer is 28 out of 80, which is 0.35. And the total is 80 out of 80, which is 1. So that last number in the total, you always want to be 1 or 100%. Now we just have to turn these into percent. So football is 40%, soccer 35%, and the total is 100%. So if you want to look at number one, explain what the numerator and denominator, 20 is the number of people that prefer basketball out of 80, which is the total number of people. So you can write those as either decimals or percents. Now we're going to talk about two-way relative frequency tables. So you can obtain the following relative frequencies from a two-way table. You can have marginal relative frequency or a joint relative frequency. The margin, if you think about a piece of paper, out in the margin is like the outsides. So it's found by dividing the row total or column by the grand total. So for example, on this example one, it would be anything in this column or this row divided by 80, which is the grand total. The joint relative frequency is found by dividing the frequency that is not in the total row or the total column by the grand total. So your denominator is always going to be 80 on this one. So it tells the portion that has both of the characteristics. So if we said the one that preferred sport was football and the person was a girl, we could say it's 12 out of 80. So we'll look at, this one, they already did it for you. So we have 6. So this one is 6 out of 80, which is 0.075. Boy basketball would be 14 out of 80. So the denominator for every one of these is 80. And the marginal relative frequency, the margin is out in the margins, which is in the green. The joint is in the blue. And again, they all total up to 1 or 100%. And you can always double check. You can add up the girl row, like the 0.075 plus 0.15 plus 0.225 equals the total. So those should always add up. Okay, so you guys can work on the your turn. So you can find the joint relative frequency of students surveyed who like jogging and like aerobics. So we have the like aerobics is yes, like jogging is yes. So we have 7 out of 40. So 7 out of 40 is 0.175 or 17.5%. So that would be your joint or marginal relative frequency. Now, for the conditional relative frequency, this is putting a condition on what's going on. So it describes what portion of a group with a given characteristic that also has another specified characteristic. A conditional relative frequency is found by dividing the frequency that is not in the total row or the total column by the total row or that column. So a lot of the times they'll say given. So let's look at example 2. From Kenesha's two-way frequency table about preferred sports, you know that 36 students surveyed were girls and 28 students preferred soccer. You also know that 18 students surveyed are girls who prefer soccer. Use this information to find each conditional relative frequency. So find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed prefers soccer given that the student is a girl. So we're going to go back here and we're only going to look at the girl row. So we're talking about the girl row. So your grand total in the total in the girl row is 36, and the one that preferred soccer is 18. So we're going to say this is 18 out of 36. So 18 out of 36 is 50%. The conditional relative frequency is 0.5 or 50%. That means that 50% of all the girls surveyed prefer soccer. Now let's look at part B. Find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed is a girl given that student prefers soccer. So now we're going to go back. We're only going to look at the people that prefer soccer. So we're going to look at the column of soccer. So the total is 28 for the soccer column, and then the girls is 18. So if you look, this is going to be 18 out of 28, or 64.3%. So the conditional relative frequency is about 64.3%. So out of the students who prefer soccer, 64.3 are girls. So if we look at this one, from Kanisha's table, you know that 44 students were boys, 20 preferred basketball, and 14 were boys who prefer basketball. Find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed is a boy given that the student prefers basketball. So we're only going to look at the basketball part. So we're going to look at just the basketball. So just the basketball is going to be a grand total of 20. So that's going to go on the bottom. Now, how many boys played basketball? There are 14. So here, you're just going to say 14 out of 20 is 70%. And that's it. Now, for example 3, with finding possible associations, I think I will probably go through this when I come back on Wednesday. So don't really worry about the associations. So we'll go through that on Wednesday when I come back. So have a great day and enjoy. Reach out if you have any questions.